Do not take my bike!
Yo, what's good, social media? Dion Cheese here, and I'm coming all the way from Wild and Mays, the home of Angry Deer and Violent Squirrel. So I just decided to go out here on a little ride on the King Goat and express my mind with a few thoughts. You know, I'm not getting no ice cream. I know y'all hear the little jingling music and all that, and then some. That's how we got to do it out here, though, you know. So, with that being said, there's a jingle and jangle going on here. So I just want to take a little cruise around the neighborhood and talk about pedals. So I know a lot of you want pedals when you e-bike. You know, it's pretty good if that's what you want and that's what you're into. I know you got e-bikes with pedals, you got e-bikes that don't have pedals. So, just happened to be riding one today with the pedals on it. And I just want to talk about a little bit of what's going on around here. So, lately, as you know, I know a lot of y'all know that the cops been cracking down on a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? But people getting mad because they don't understand the laws. So just because it is electric, it doesn't exempt you from the laws of the land. And when the politicians make up their mind, whether they be based on factual knowledge or ignorance, it doesn't make a difference. So the thing is, it says ignorance of the law is no excuse. And there's also no excuse that you got ignorant people making the laws. But however, if you have an e-bike and it's capable of going, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles per hour, you're no longer driving a normal e-bike. At least not the kind that shouldn't be insured, that shouldn't have any repercussions if you get in an accident. So a lot of people want pedals, but yet you don't intend to ride your bike at 20 miles per hour. Nobody's riding around doing 28 miles per hour on a Suron, just because you got it registered as a moped. And instead of just registering as a lightweight motorcycle under the proper statutes, especially like in states like California, where they got a lot of statutes and so forth. So when you have an easy way of registering your bike where you can just take a form and put it in the mail, pay your little taxes or whatever you gotta pay, get your plate, man, and go ahead and enjoy yourself. Because at the end of the day, you can live your life trying to outrun the cops, but they're gonna catch you. I mean, I never seen a bike that was faster than a radio or a helicopter. So if you're out there, and you know what I'm saying, you live in like New Jersey or whatever, yeah, you might get away a couple of times, whatever. But eventually that game is gonna play out. So you have to decide whether, you wanna keep your bike or you don't want to keep it. I mean, I don't know how much you pay. I mean, I said most bikes that can go at least 40 to 50 miles per hour is going to cost you at least $2,500 on up. So you got to think about what you're investing in. So at the end of the day, you gotta ask yourself, is it worth it? Do you want to keep your bike or you don't? So at the end of the day, it's like you have to make a decision on what you want to do. But with that being said, like I said, like me, I'm riding on a MotoGo version 3. This bike right here comes as a class 2. And where I live at, I don't really have any issues with the law, but yet, I've been seeking, because I live in PA, so I've been seeking to get my bike registered because like I said, at the end of the day, I'd rather just go ahead and pay the money, go ahead and ride with, have freedom, ride respectable, have others respect me and do what I gotta do. So, like I said, I bought a commuter. Basically, I bought my bike as a commuter bike. So that's what I did for myself. But you have to make a decision what you want to do. So, like I said, this is a mid-drive bike, and it's capable of doing speeds up to 65 miles per hour with no problem. So, but like I said, I had to ask yourself, before you get a bike, you need to ask yourself, what do you plan on doing with the bike? How do you plan on riding? That's how you make your decision when you get in the e-bike. How much power does it have, and what's adequate for you? And like I said, that most people, you're not gonna be riding your e-bike on the highway, and in most cities, I know the speed limit for the most part is between 25 and 40 miles per hour on an average street. So, and I know it's a couple of little spots, you know, especially like where I'm at, you know, the speed's like 45, but people be doing like 55, 60. And I just know if it's ever a tight situation, you know, I know I can keep up with that. But like, that's not the normal way I ride. So, like I said, most of the streets I ride on, quiet streets, you know, I go back and forth to work, save myself a lot of gas money, you know, because Mercedes is, get real expensive when you start talking about premium gas. It's like basically $5 a gallon and above, depending on where you live at. So, with that being said, we got to start thinking about responsibility. And as I said, you got a lot of kids out there. They was out there doing wheelies and doing all that wild shit. So that's the reason why a lot of these laws came down, where people are having these issues now. So you have to, you know what I'm saying? Like either you know what? I remember when you know what I mean, like when I first got locked up, right? So I did Fed time. So, you know, but I had did state time before that. And it was a guy, you know, he said it to me real clear, you know, and I was young at the time, and he said it. He said, listen, he said, you either part of the problem or you part of the solution. So you got to ask yourself, are you part of the problem or you part of the solution? I mean, you could cry to a cop all day long that it's an e-bike and it only go this many miles per hour, because it doesn't take a genius to look it up, you know? So at the end of the day, if you get into an accident, I know you don't expect them to treat you like it's a regular bike. You're not protected under those same laws as somebody who's on a pedal bike or a non-motorized bike. So you have to ask yourself, if you get into an accident and you're the cause of that accident because maybe you wasn't paying attention, you could have been looking at your phone, could have got a text message, you could have been arguing with somebody. So you got to ask yourself, are you willing to foot that bill? Because if you hit somebody's most expensive car and you run into them, you're going to be responsible, and you're going to be in the hospital. You know, so it's a lot of people, they running out there. It's choices you have to make. So you either going to be a responsible adult or you're not going to be a responsible adult. And I know probably like a lot of you young kids out there, y'all probably don't want to hear nothing coming from me, but at the end of the day, shit, you don't have to listen to me. Explain it to the judge. I hope your story is good, you know, because regardless of whatever you got to say, the letter of the law is going to be the letter of the law, especially when you walk into a courtroom. So I've been in enough courtrooms to know that they don't play fair. So the best bet is just to do what you got to do your research, get your e-bike registered, do what you got to do, you know, and ride safely and ride your bike like responsibly, and then you won't have anything to worry about, you know. So with that being said, yo, I'm just going to cool out, you know, enjoy my day. I'm about to go ahead, you know, finish doing my little ride on, and I'll talk to y'all later. I'll get back at you. Peace.